My second younger sister, barely born, was thrown into the backyard by my grandmother. That very night, I watched with my own eyes as a pack of stray dogs tore her apart. My mother cried until her eyes were nearly blind during her postpartum confinement. My father criticized her for not bearing a son. After divorcing my mother, he married another woman and within a few years became a wealthy tycoon. It wasn't until 18 years later that my half-brother brought home a girlfriend. She intimately took my hand, a chilling smile in her eyes. "Sister, you really look like my biological older sister." The moment my mother's water broke, she was transplanting rice in the scorching sun, painfully bending over when sudden pangs of labor made her collapse, her water breaking. My grandmother and father took her to the town hospital by tractor. The doctor said my mother's baby was too large and she risked severe hemorrhage. My grandmother anxiously asked, "Doctor, is my daughter-in-law carrying a boy or a girl?" My father followed suit, saying, "If it's a boy, save the baby. If it's a girl, save the mother." The doctor was silent for a moment before simply saying, "We will do our best." 10 hours later, my mother was wheeled out, her face as white as paper, as if she'd lost half her life. The nurse carefully held the baby, joyfully announcing to my father and grandmother, "Congratulations, it's a baby girl." My grandmother's face instantly darkened, and she turned and walked away. My father glanced at the baby, unable to force even a half-smile. After my mother was discharged, my grandmother and father secretly discussed giving my younger sister away for adoption. They asked people throughout the neighboring villages but couldn't find anyone willing to take her. In those days, rural families were poor, had many children, and food was scarce. No one valued daughters, considering them a burden. My younger sister suffered from jaundice and cried inconsolably all night. My mother's milk ducts were blocked, and her episiotomy wound was inflamed and bleeding, leaving her weak and utterly ravaged. My grandmother ignored my mother's pleas and placed my younger sister under the scorching sun, claiming that 3 months of summer sun could sterilize. In less than half an hour, my younger sister's face turned beet red, and her cries grew weaker. I couldn't bear it and secretly carried her back inside. My grandmother rushed over, pinching me hard. "You cursed brat. How dare you? Who told you to bring her in?" She punched and kicked me. I was a girl too. When I was born, my grandmother tried to throw me into a well to drown me. As she reached the well's edge, I burst into loud sobs, scaring away a venomous snake at her feet. She also consulted a fortune teller who said I had a good destiny and would bring wealth to the family, which was why she spared me. My mother took my younger sister, her heart aching, tears streaming down her face. A woman in postpartum confinement is at her weakest. She could only crawl out of bed, kneeling and kowtowing, begging my grandmother to take the baby to the hospital. My grandmother snatched the baby from my mother's arms and kicked her. "Whose child doesn't get jaundice? Do you see people taking them to the hospital? Do you think we have too much money to waste?" The next day, my younger sister's jaundice worsened significantly. She vomited, her eyes rolled, and her entire body convulsed uncontrollably. My grandmother directly threw my younger sister into a pot, the stove filled with firewood underneath. She claimed that according to rural folk remedies, putting a horse's head in hot water and soaking the baby in it for an hour would cure jaundice. It was a hot summer. She lit the fire, locked the door, and then took her hand fan to gamble at the village entrance. I lay clinging to the window, watching the fire in the stove burn stronger and stronger, the water in the pot boiling and steaming. My younger sister's face was boiled white, and there was a faint smell of meat. Realizing something was terribly wrong, I rushed to call my mother and father. "Father, wake up, quickly save her. She's going to burn to death. Please, father." I cried and screamed by his bed. My father, drunk, kicked me away, muttering curses. "You damned burden, die and get out of my sight." My mother was too ill and delirious, unable even to open her eyes. I had no choice but to run out and call for help from the neighbors. Just then, Uncle Bao came to borrow rice from our house. Seeing my panicked face, he quickly asked, "Child, what's wrong? Quickly save your sister." I cried until I was almost exhausted. Uncle Bao kicked open the kitchen door and pulled my younger sister out of the boiling water. She had already been boiled to death. I hugged my younger sister's tiny body, looking at that pink, cooked piece of flesh, and immediately felt nauseous. When my mother was pregnant with my younger sister, she suffered severe morning sickness, vomiting everything she ate, enduring immense hardship. Uncle Bao even helped her find folk remedies. He looked at my younger sister, his eyes slowly reddening. How could anyone be so cruel to such a beautiful child? Aren't they afraid of retribution? Find a place to bury her. May she not be reincarnated into this family again in the next life. Uncle Bao was a good man. He had 7 daughters, all raised fair and plump. He often told the villagers that daughters were like little cotton jackets, close confidants. The villagers teased him for not having a son, but he didn't care. If only my younger sister and I had been his daughters. Thinking of this, my nose stung. I went to the front yard, grabbed a hoe, and buried my younger sister in the northwest corner of the vegetable garden. My younger sister was dead. I didn't dare tell my mother, fearing she wouldn't survive the shock. My father, sobered, showed no emotion when he heard. My grandmother, however, complained that I had soiled a corner of her land. In the middle of the night, I woke up to use the outhouse behind the house, vaguely seeing a pack of stray dogs gathered, gnawing on bones. Getting closer for a better look, beneath the stray dog's feet was the skull of an infant. Its mouth was gone, only one eye remained. The stray dogs barked at me twice. I was so scared I wet my pants and ran full speed towards the main gate. Later, I learned that my grandmother had dug up my younger sister's body and thrown it into the backyard. She had heard somewhere that if a young girl's body was torn apart by stray dogs, she would give birth to a son in her next life. Terrified, I fell ill and was bedridden. My mother cried until her eyes were nearly blind during her postpartum confinement. My grandmother didn't take me to the hospital. Instead, she invited the village shamaness to our home. The shamaness placed a bowl of water by my bed, stood 2 chopsticks upright in it, mumbled a few incantations, then released her hands. The 2 chopsticks remained standing in the water. A look of horror flashed in the shamaness's eyes. Has someone in your family died? My grandmother stammered, saying, the little baby was born with jaundice and died young. The shamaness's face darkened. Nonsense! How could a baby who died young have such strong resentment? My grandmother then claimed the baby accidentally fell into a foot-washing basin and drowned. The shamaness, half believing, half doubting, took a dog's tooth from her cloth pouch and tied it to my wrist. Then she scooped a handful of sticky rice from the kitchen and scattered it in front of my bed, muttering a charm. After a night of struggle, my fever broke the next morning. Before leaving, the shamaness called my grandmother and father aside, saying that my younger sister's resentment was too strong, that she had become an evil spirit and would even be reincarnated with her memories. Once she grew up, she would definitely return for revenge. She also cursed my father, saying he would never have a son in this life, and even if he did, that son would die a tragic death. My father didn't believe the shamaness's earlier words, but he became convinced that my mother could no longer bear a son. He immediately turned around and went to court to file for divorce. After the divorce, he immediately married the village chief's daughter. It turned out that while my mother was pregnant, he had already been having an affair with her. The village chief arranged for him to work in a coal mine, and soon he became a wealthy tycoon, buying a house in the city and even having a son. My grandmother was overjoyed, embracing her chubby grandson and boasting everywhere, telling everyone she met that her current daughter-in-law brought prosperity. My father's career flourished, perhaps in line with my prediction of bringing wealth. That year, my father insisted on taking me back to live with him, even though my blind mother chased after my car for several miles. Sitting in the car, watching the rice fields fade into the distance, the shamaness's words echoed in my mind. The grown evil spirit will definitely return for revenge. From a young age, my younger brother, Leo, was very unlucky. He'd fall and break bones even walking on flat ground, and a flower pot falling from above once hit him, causing a concussion. Such incidents were commonplace. My father also noticed something was amiss and donated money to the village to build a bagua well. It was 18 meters deep, and engraved on its sides were my younger sister's birth date and month. Yet, things did not improve. On his 18th birthday, Leo and his bad friends partied until midnight at a bar. On their way home, he fell into a septic tank, almost dying and disappearing without a trace. My grandmother, still shaken, invited the shamaness to consult. The shamaness said Leo was cursed by a fierce omen and wouldn't live past 18 unless he married a girl with a strong destiny early to ward off disaster. So my grandmother went everywhere, looking for girls with strong destinies, sending their birth dates to the shamaness. The shamaness shook her head repeatedly after seeing them, making my grandmother increasingly anxious. Then, half a month ago, Leo brought a girl home. Her name was Serene. She was a year older than Leo and the same age as my deceased younger sister would have been. Her large, dark eyes initially appeared innocent and lovely, but a prolonged gaze seemed to draw one's soul, sending shivers down the spine. She intimately took my hand. "Sister, you really look like my biological older sister." She asked my name. I told her I was Chiu. A smile formed at the corner of her lips, a hint of pity in her eyes. "My name is Serene. It's taken from Jin Guo, meaning a heroine among women. My mother always said men and women are equal." I just smiled and said nothing. The shamaness examined Serene's horoscope and declared her to be the girl with the strong destiny. Serene was the youngest daughter in her family, with one older sister. Her father died early, and her mother raised the two sisters alone. Initially, my grandmother disagreed, believing Serene's family conditions were too poor and she wasn't worthy of Leo. Serene calmly tossed the ultrasound report onto the table. She didn't cry, didn't make a scene, didn't throw a tantrum. Instead, she said, "Surgery fees, nutritional fees, plus emotional damages total $23,000. Once paid, I'll break up with Leo." Leo looked at the ultrasound report, bewildered. "Serene, why didn't you tell me you were pregnant?" He tightly gripped Serene's hand, stood up, and told my grandmother, "Parents, grandmother, if I don't marry her, I won't marry anyone. If you chase her away, you're forcing me to die." My stepmother, Lan, who had doted on her precious son since he was little, immediately compromised at the mention of death, continuously winking at my grandmother. My father had no opinion. As long as Serene could bear a son, that was all that mattered. 23,000 was merely a drop in the ocean for our family. In recent years, countless girls had been driven away by my grandmother with money. But this time, my grandmother hesitated. She felt this girl wasn't after money, didn't use the baby to threaten them, and wasn't easily controlled. I stood in the corner, holding a stemmed wine glass, gently swirling the blood-red liquid. This girl, Serene, was not simple. She had ended a battle without a single shot fired. I don't know when the shamaness had appeared behind me. The burn scars on her face were covered by tattoos, making her look eerie. The wrinkles at the corners of her eyes were deeper, and she looked much older than I remembered. I recalled Uncle Bao once saying that the shamaness used to be our neighbor. Over 10 years ago, for unknown reasons, her house suffered a massive fire. Her children and husband all perished in the blaze, only she survived. Since then, she lived a solitary life in a dilapidated temple beside the village. Villagers would make offerings to the local earth god, and while there, also make offerings to her. Gradually, she became the shamaness. The shamaness pulled me into the house, pulling a triangular yellow talisman from her chest and pressing it into my hand. "Your younger sister is about to return. Keep this safe. It can help keep you safe." "Madam, why are you so kind to me? When my family met with disaster that year, I lived alone in the ruined temple. It was your mother who often brought steamed buns and rice to help me. Your mother is a good person, what a pity." Hearing her mention my mother, a pang of bitterness surged in my heart. After my mother went blind, my father abandoned her in the countryside. In the first few years after their divorce, communication wasn't developed. My father didn't allow me to go back to see her. I secretly sent money to Uncle Bao, asking him to take care of my mother. I took the yellow talisman and told the shamaness, "You and Uncle Bao are both my benefactors." The shamaness smiled, appearing unconcerned. "Child, do you really think your Uncle Bao is a good person?" I was a little confused, about to ask her why she said that, when my father helped my grandmother enter. My grandmother sat on the sofa, her hands clasped over her empty walking stick. "Sister Ju, could you help me see if my daughter-in-law is carrying a boy or a girl?" The shamaness smiled subtly. Heaven's secrets must not be revealed. My grandmother, realizing, pulled out a stack of money from her chest and placed it on the coffee table. "You've been inconvenienced with many trips these past few months, shamaness. Once the curse is lifted, there will be more payment." My brother's wedding date was set for 3 months later. Serene had taken a leave of absence from school, staying at our house to focus on her pregnancy. She was tall, with raven black hair, exuding an air of intelligence. I couldn't understand why she'd fall for someone as unruly as my brother. I heard Leo say that Serene was often bullied in high school. My brother, with a group of thugs, played the hero, saving the beauty. At that time, Serene was a top student and too young for romance. They officially started dating in college. Yet, what was perplexing was that Serene was willing to get pregnant before marriage and drop out of school to marry my brother. That day, Serene was reading on the second-floor balcony. I was returning from walking the dog, past the second floor, and greeted her. My little black dog suddenly barked incessantly at her, making her stand up in fright, leaning against the railing. The girl's usually calm eyes suddenly flickered with fear. I kicked my black dog's rear. "If you bark again, I'll stew you for dinner." Then I smiled and apologized to her. "Are you afraid of dogs?" Serene wiped sweat from her forehead, explaining, "I was bitten by a dog when I was little. I have a psychological trauma." The housemaid brought out the dog leash and led little Black away to feed him. I sat down next to Serene. "I'm also afraid of dogs. My younger sister was. But I'm stubborn. The more I fear something, the more I want to keep it." Serene looked at me thoughtfully. "I heard Leo say that our father donated money to the village to build a bagua well. Can you take me to see it?" I was so scared that the teacup in my hand dropped to the floor. As I bent to pick it up, I said, "That well is very sacred. You're pregnant, so it's best not to go see it." My grandmother and father said that after Serene gave birth, if it was a boy, she would be rewarded with a villa. If it was a girl, according to the customs of City A, she would be given 11,000 in dowry money, considered a 1 in 100 choice. Serene just smirked when she heard this. She seemed more interested in the well my father had donated to build, pestering me for details about it. I casually lied. "Many children have drowned in the countryside these past few years." The villagers are superstitious, so they asked our father to build this bagua well. The well is 18 meters deep, which locals say is like 18 layers of hell, meant to suppress fierce evil. The well is located in the area with the heaviest yin energy in the village, meticulously calculated by a geomancer. Serene nodded. "I heard that if someone's birth date is carved onto it, their soul will be trapped in the well, never to find peace." No, it's not that mystical. Thinking of my younger sister's birth date carved on the well wall, my heart ached and felt heavy. All these years, she's been trapped in that well. She must desperately want to get out. How pitiful, tormented to death at birth, and not even allowed peace in death. "I really want to see it with my own eyes," Serene hinted repeatedly. That day, while my grandmother was not home, I drove her to our old village. I visited my mother first. My mother's mental state hadn't been very good these past few years. She kept muttering about my younger sister, saying she had returned. She clutched a brick to her chest. "My child, I'm here, don't be angry. I'll bear you a younger brother, father won't hit you anymore." "Mother, after all these years, why are you still thinking about bearing a son?" I rushed forward and snatched the brick from her hand. She ran away in fear, screaming, "Don't come here, don't kill my child, don't kill my child." Just then, Uncle Bao rushed in, his face panicked. "Chiu, something's wrong. The girl you brought fell into the well, go check on her quickly." When I arrived, Serene had already been pulled out with a rope. She lay on the ground, her eyes wide open, unblinking for a long time, her limbs stiff as if possessed. It was strange, falling into such a deep well, there was no blood. The shamaness lightly touched her belly and whispered a few words into my ear. I stood at the edge of the well, looking down. The bottom was pitch black, and the small characters on the well wall seemed to have faded. I drove Serene to the city hospital. The doctor gave her a full examination. The diagnosis showed nothing alarming apart from a few scratches on her body. The doctor even emphasized that the fetus was very healthy. When Serene woke up, I asked her what had happened. She said she was standing at the mouth of the well, leaned in to look, and was pushed from behind, then fell in. My hand, peeling an apple, stopped. I grabbed my phone and sent a message to a friend at the town police station. 10 minutes later, the reply came. "Although most rural areas now have cameras, the location of the Bagua well is a camera blind spot, you understand." No cameras, no witnesses. Was it a ghost, or was someone pretending to be one? It would be hard to say. "My friend, please help me investigate one more person. Next time I come to City A, I'll treat you to a big meal." I casually sent over the details. Serene was hospitalized for 10 days. My grandmother urged us to discharge her, saying that people died in hospitals every day, which was bad luck. Back at the villa, Serene's spirits drooped. She lay in bed every day, unwilling to move. Strangely, her appetite was better than before. Previously, she'd vomit everything and couldn't eat salty foods, but now she ate pork, lamb, and beef at every meal. My grandmother rejoiced, saying that she was definitely carrying a boy. She even claimed that when she was pregnant with my father, she particularly craved meat. I thought to myself that she was so poor back then she barely had rice to eat, so of course, she craved meat. That night, my grandmother, leaning on her cane, knocked on my door. Knock, knock, knock. At first, I pulled the blanket over my head. She kept knocking and knocking. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore, pulled back the blanket, and got out of bed. "Grandmother, what do you need?" My grandmother glanced into my room, then mysteriously asked, "Chiu, do you hear a baby crying?" I rubbed my eyes, yawned. "No, grandmother, you must be dreaming." She heard it, she insisted, her cloudy eyes darting around the room. Then she cupped her hand to her ear, as if trying to distinguish carefully. "Listen, it's your brother's room." She spoke so convincingly that half my sleepiness instantly vanished. I went to my brother Leo's door and pressed my ear against it. The entire villa was silent, only the miserable cries of stray cats mating echoed from outside. My grandmother said she heard a baby crying every night. My father said it was auditory hallucinations and even ordered the stray cats in the yard to be caught and beaten to death. The maid said that when the cat died, it had 6 kittens inside its belly. My grandmother tossed and turned all night, unable to sleep, going up and down the stairs with her cane every midnight, her eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep, making it difficult for her to move around. Finally, one day, she fell down the stairs and broke her leg. It was 2:00 a.m. Serene discovered my grandmother and woke everyone up. Serene said she was hungry in the middle of the night and went down to the kitchen to get the spicy rabbit meat my brother had bought earlier. Turning around, she saw my grandmother lying face down on the ground, unable to move. On the stairs were 2 calico kittens less than a month old. Everyone in the house found it very strange. Where did these 2 calico kittens come from? The maid quickly picked up the kittens. "So many stray cats lately, how did they get in again? I'll take them out and get rid of them right away." My grandmother said Serene was her benefactor. If it weren't for Serene, she might have been in a coffin already. She took out all the jewelry she had accumulated over the years, choosing the cheapest Houghton jade bracelet as a gift for her daughter-in-law. Serene politely expressed her gratitude. After my grandmother's accident, the maid was extremely busy, so my father hired another young caregiver. Lan quarreled with him over this, accusing him of having impure thoughts. My father had risen to prominence thanks to Lan, and he both respected and feared her, acting timidly in everything he did. Others laughed at him for being henpecked. In recent years, the company my father invested in himself had gone public, and he had become more assertive, starting to disregard Lan. "You have a conscience. This was my first marriage, and you were marrying for the second time. That year, your house in the countryside was dilapidated, open to the elements on all sides. Who helped you get this big villa? Do you want to cast aside the old to get the new now? I'm telling you, it's not going to happen." Lan had been saying these words for years, bringing them up every time they argued. My ears are numb to it. I helped you earn the money, I bore you a son, and you still dare to eye other women. Do you want some mistress to bear you another son to fight for the inheritance? If you dare betray me, you will surely die a gruesome death. Always talking about death, death, death. My father angrily smashed the newly bought tea set into pieces. "I think you wish I were dead. Are you tired of me now?" Lan collapsed to the floor, weeping hysterically, and then began recounting one grievance after another. "If it weren't for me, you'd still be farming in the countryside, you heartless man. Didn't you think about who paid to settle things when that coal mine incident happened?" My father truly couldn't listen anymore. He grabbed his jacket and walked out. It was truly mysterious. That day, my father came home very late, completely drunk. Sitting in the passenger seat, as the car approached the villa area, the driver suddenly slammed on the brakes. The car swerved violently, crashed into a rock face, killing one person and injuring another. My father woke up sober to find himself in the hospital. Recalling the situation, he said he seemed to have seen an infant in the middle of the road. The police used his statement to check surveillance cameras. At the time of the accident, there was nothing on that stretch of road, not even much traffic. They suspected my father had seen things due to being drunk. My father touched his bandaged head, his eyes wide, staring at the vital signs monitor, muttering, "She's back, she's definitely back." Who's back?" The police, sensing something criminal, quickly asked. "She's back for revenge. Every wrong has a perpetrator, every debt has an owner." "It wasn't me who harmed you. Don't come for me, don't come for me." My father ripped out his IV, ran wildly into the hallway, knocking over several patients. He was restrained by doctors and nurses, given a sedative, and finally drifted into a deep sleep. With a series of misfortunes occurring in the house, my grandmother and Lan decided to speed up my brother's wedding date and invited the shamaness home to perform rituals. The shamaness hung many willow branches on the doors, covered the doors and windows with yellow talismans, and warned us not to go out after midnight. She said that was when the malevolent energy was strongest. My brother, forced by my grandmother, stayed home for 2 days. On the third night, he went out for a walk. On his way back, he couldn't see the steps and lost 2 front teeth. I suspect he was high. All these things seemed like coincidences, but the shamaness claimed my younger sister was already in the villa. Half a month ago, for my brother's wedding, Uncle Bao came to pick up an invitation. He looked at the arrangements in our house and frowned. Did that shamaness teach you to arrange things like this? This isn't warding off evil, this is inviting it. Huh, I was stunned. The shamaness had previously warned me to be wary of Uncle Bao. Now Uncle Bao said the shamaness was deliberately inviting evil. Who should I believe? Uncle Bao was blood-related to my family. He saved my younger sister, helped care for my mother. Surely he wouldn't harm us. The shamaness had a great reputation in the village and worked for money, so she probably wouldn't ruin her own reputation. What should I do now? I asked, panicked. Has an evil spirit entered here? Uncle Bao sighed. Your house is big, but the feng shui is bad. Put a mirror on the stairs, it can ward off evil. I quickly followed Uncle Bao's advice. That night, I heard a noise from the next room, gently pushed the door open a crack, and discovered Serene had gone into the kitchen again. I carefully followed her and witnessed a horrifying scene. She was clearly only 3 months pregnant, but her belly in the mirror was as large as 8 months. I rubbed my eyes, suspecting I had seen wrong. Do you want some? Just as I was lost in thought, Serene suddenly appeared in front of me, startling me. I looked closely and found her holding a plate of raw chicken thighs, dripping with blood, making my stomach churn. I almost vomited. Serene noticed the mirror. She slowly wiped the blood from her teeth, looking at her reflection, then turned and smiled sinisterly at me, whispering in my ear, "Sister, you'll definitely help me, won't you?" My grandmother wanted to bathe before my brother's wedding. The caregiver had already prepared hot water. I helped my grandmother into the bathtub. After about half an hour, my grandmother's painful groans echoed from the bathroom. When the caregiver and I rushed in, we found the room filled with steam. My grandmother had fallen out of the tub and was lying face down on the floor. The water in the bathtub was boiling furiously. The caregiver saw this scene and was so scared her legs gave way. I clearly poured warm water. How could it be boiling? My grandmother was scalded red all over. The water temperature had risen gradually, so by the time she realized it, she was already severely burned. Not long after, her entire body was covered in large blisters. My father rushed back from the company. He called the shamaness to question her. Strange occurrences keep happening one after another. Do you actually have the ability to ward off evil? I didn't dare mention Uncle Bao saying the shamaness was inviting evil. The shamaness pretended to be mysterious, saying, "The malevolent energy is too strong. My abilities are limited. I fear I won't be able to control it even by nightfall." She took a triangular red talisman from her chest. This contains over a decade of my spiritual cultivation. It can save a life in a crisis, but there's only one. Give it to me, give it to me. My grandmother stretched out her bony hand, her eyes gleaming. My father quickly snatched the red talisman. Mother, you're bedridden, you won't need it. My grandmother watched greedily as he stuffed the red talisman into his pants pocket, groaning in pain, cursing, "You ungrateful wretch, I raised you all these years for nothing. You won't even save your mother's life, you beast." I was woken by thunder in the middle of the night. Tomorrow was my brother's wedding day, and I felt a little uneasy. Just then, my police friend sent me a message. He said, "Last time you asked me to investigate a girl named Serene. She really does have an older sister." I went back to her hometown and asked around carefully and found that her older sister died a long time ago in an accident. She was pregnant at the time. Oh, these 2 sisters look very alike. I'm sending you a photo. You can't tell them apart without looking closely. Seeing the facial features in the photo that match Serene's, my heart skipped a beat. My police friend sent me another news link. The headline read, "High school girl commits suicide by jumping into a river after argument with mother." Clicking on it, most comments criticized parents for putting too much pressure on their children. The final step into the abyss is mostly pushed by those closest. Only 18, she must have already filled out her college applications. What a pity. One comment caught my attention. "Don't blame everything on parents. I was this girl's classmate. She was raped by a group of thugs and was pregnant when she died." Netizens criticized him. "The deceased is gone. Please don't fabricate stories." Oh my God, then you should call the police immediately. Before I could finish reading, my father's shouts came from outside. I rushed out and found my grandmother crawling on the ground with a knife, chasing my father to hack him. My brother Leo tightly held my grandmother's hand, while Lan grabbed her legs from behind. My grandmother seemed deranged, barefoot, covered in blisters, baring her teeth and claws as if wanting to devour someone, biting my brother's arm. My father saw this and rushed over, kicking her hard. "You old hag, why won't you die? You're even trying to hack your own son. Open your mouth, let him go, Leo. Auntie Mai, get the pliers." The scene was too chaotic. The caregiver was so scared she collapsed to the ground, trembling. 1, 2, 3, it's like someone's missing. I looked around and saw Serene standing by the second-floor window, her arms crossed over her chest, half her face visible in profile, calmly watching the chaotic scene, a strange smile playing on her lips. My father tied my grandmother up and locked her in the bedroom, adding another padlock. My grandmother continuously cursed. "You bastard! You won't die a peaceful death. Years ago, to give birth to you, I aborted 3 pregnancies and suffocated 4 newborn daughters. Is this how you repay my filial piety?" My brother's wedding proceeded as scheduled. The ceremony was arranged for the evening at the most beautiful banquet hall in the city, right by a lake, the scenery beautiful. Picking up the bride, filming, everything proceeded tensely but orderly. None of Serene's relatives came. She explained that she got pregnant before marriage and dropped out of school, so her mother disowned her. Lan was somewhat displeased, fearing gossip from relatives. My father said nothing, he just wanted my brother to quickly complete the wedding. That night, it poured rain with thunder and lightning outside. Guests trickled in late, some even sent their monetary gifts and didn't show up. Serene wore a white wedding dress, her face was already pale and her lips were painted a vivid red, making her look eerie under the lights. My brother wore a neat suit, looking more mature than usual. The two exchanged rings. Just as my brother was about to recite his vows, the lights suddenly went out, plunging the banquet hall into darkness. The seated guests began to stir. Staff came to explain that heavy rain had damaged the electrical circuit and they were urgently repairing it. The hotel also had a generator. "Please don't worry, everyone, there's no need to rush." In the darkness, Uncle Bao grabbed my hand. "Chiu, something's not right today. Think, has anything strange happened recently?" "Many strange things have happened recently." I thought for a moment and said, "This morning when I got Leo's suit, I found a piece of paper in his pocket. On it was his birth date." "What else?" Uncle Bao's voice was sharp. "Think carefully." "I had a dream yesterday." I frowned, recalling. "I think I saw my father, grandmother, and Lan all at a cemetery. In front of them was a tombstone, whose name was on it. I woke up before I could see clearly." "It's over," Uncle Bao suddenly realized. "Your brother is having a ghost marriage." "What?" I couldn't believe it and quickly asked, "Then what will happen?" At that moment, the banquet hall suddenly lit up brightly. The dazzling crystal lights temporarily blinded everyone. "Leo, where are you going? Come back here quickly." Lan's screams echoed from the stage. Everyone followed her gaze and saw my brother, like a controlled puppet, stiffly walking out of the banquet hall. Lan and my father chased after him. Outside, it was raining cats and dogs. We stood at the hall entrance, watching my brother walk towards the steps by the lake. Lan and my father pulled him, but he had no intention of turning back. Thunder and lightning continuously flashed across the sky, followed by a deafening roar of thunder, then a mournful scream. My father returned as if fleeing from death itself. Uncle Bao ran to support him, anxiously asking, "What happened? Where are the other 2? They were struck by lightning and died." My father suddenly laughed loudly, spreading his arms wide and raising them high. "They were all struck by lightning and died. It's good to be struck by lightning and die, ha ha." I was so horrified I could barely speak, pushing through the crowd at the door and rushing into the banquet hall. Serene, in her white wedding dress, stood in the center of the hall, gently stroking her belly, a strange smile playing on her lips. My brother's and Lan's bodies were recovered from the lake the next day, all charred black. News of people being struck by lightning and dying in City A became a top search. A joyful event had suddenly turned into a funeral. Relatives whispered, saying our family was cursed. My father was lucky to escape. He believed the red talisman had saved his life and gave the shamaness another fee. My brother and Lan were dead, but my father didn't even shed a single tear. He welcomed his mistress and her child to live openly in the villa. I heard him laughing with his mistress. "Guess what? That crazy old hag was struck by lightning and died." "That's wonderful. I was just worrying about how to divorce her." The mistress nestled into his arms. "Even heaven is helping us." My grandmother had a continuous high fever for 3 days due to an infected wound. When I secretly went to visit her, I found the skin on her body had stuck to the bedsheets. When she turned, pieces peeled off. She groaned, "Leo, my good grandson. I have a son and I have a grandson. I am the most blessed woman." Then she giggled strangely. The next day, my grandmother passed away. My father spent a large sum of money to buy her a burial plot. Relatives all praised him for his filial piety. Serene became a widow. My father gave her a villa and hired a maid to take care of her, promising to transfer ownership of the villa to her once she gave birth. Life passed peacefully for half a month. My father was joyful every day. He had become rich, been promoted, and his wife had died. He had it all. The fierce lioness had been replaced by a gentle young wife who wouldn't be happy. That day, Uncle Bao came and said the Bagua well in the village had collapsed and asked my father to pay for its repair. My father frowned and said, "It's been many years since I visited my ancestors' graves in the hometown. I'll take this opportunity to go back and see the village." In reality, I knew he had his eye on the land near the Bagua well. Recently, my father had met the worker who dug the well years ago. The worker said there was a mineral deposit under that land. In fact, there had always been mineral deposits underground in our old hometown. The mineral deposits under the fields had been almost entirely extracted. Some areas had collapsed into lakes and even caused deaths. This area could no longer be dug. If they dug more, houses would collapse. He took me, Serene, and my little half-brother back to the countryside. As we drove the BMW past our dilapidated old house in the village, I saw my mother sitting in front of the main gate, holding a gourd, her hair disheveled. Hearing the car horn, she stood up as if she saw us. Who's here?" Serene and I got out of the car. My mother rushed over and tightly grabbed my hand, then felt someone next to me, happily saying, "Chiu, you're back, and you brought your younger sister back too." Serene held her hand and naturally called her Mother. I looked at her in surprise. She looked at me and smiled in return. "Who, my good child?" My mother suddenly became lucid again and led us into the house. "Mother has made dumplings for you to eat." The dumplings had molded. Serene and I had to re-knead the dough, planning to steam a fresh batch. After my father returned from grave sweeping, he went with Uncle Bao to inspect the Bagua well. Uncle Bao said he had called an excavator and was personally supervising. As soon as the steamed buns were ready, Serene and I went to call my father back for dinner. Halfway there, we saw villagers gathered around, an excavator parked nearby. I felt something was wrong. The villagers pushed through the crowd, saw me, and loudly called out, "Chiu, your father is in trouble. The ground has collapsed." "Your father and Uncle Bao are both buried in there." Serene and I looked at each other, not having planned it, then heard another scream. "They dug them out, oh my God, there's even a child." So, the protagonist's father was finally buried in the Bagua well. My boyfriend hugged me, twirling my raven hair around his finger. Can the Bagua well really suppress souls? I finished typing the last line, placed my laptop on the bedside table, looked at the dim bedside lamp, thought for a moment, then said, "The Bagua well can only suppress evil people, not wronged souls." Epilogue **. In the middle of the night, I saw Serene enjoying the breeze on the balcony. I brought 2 glasses of red wine over, gazing at the distant lights, and casually said, "You actually came to avenge your older sister, didn't you? When did you figure it out, sister?" She didn't seem surprised at all. I took a sip of wine, recalling, "Probably since the day you fell into the Bagua well." I used to suspect the shamaness suspected Uncle Bao until I saw a photo of your older sister. Then it all made sense. No one pushed you, did they? You're very smart, no wonder you're her older sister. She smiled, taking my hand and placing it on her slightly protruding belly. She and I made a deal. Do you want to help me? And help her too. In fact, we had conspired to do many things. The driver beat the stray cats in the yard, leaving them half dead. While the stray cat was barely breathing, I cut open its belly, took out 6 kittens, and gave them to Serene. Serene hid them somewhere in the villa. I placed the pre-recorded sound of a baby crying in my grandmother's room. I put my brother's birth date in his groom's suit. Serene, for her part, used her older sister's birth date and my brother's to perform the wedding ceremony. I invited the old worker who dug the well years ago and paid him a sum of money to, accidentally, reveal to my father that there was a mineral deposit under the well. Everything seemed like a coincidence, but it was all our meticulous planning. My current stepmother hadn't had a chance to register her marriage with my father. After my father died, I inherited the entire estate, giving a portion to Serene, but we continued to live together. Not long after, she gave birth to a fair and plump baby girl. I brought my mother back to the villa. My mother especially loved this baby, holding the pink and white, steamed bun without letting go. The shamaness also often visited our house, chatting with my mother. My mother's mental state clearly improved. That day, my mother and Serene were playing with the baby in the yard. The shamaness and I were having tea inside. I took a thick envelope from my pocket and placed it in front of her. That year, thanks to you, otherwise my younger sister would have, the shamaness pushed the envelope back. Your mother is my benefactor. I looked up at the sky outside. The fire at your house was caused by Uncle Bao and my father, wasn't it? Your Uncle Bao. He tried to rape you, failed, and then set your house on fire. Tears glistened in the shamaness's eyes. At that time, there were no cameras in the countryside. Someone threw a torch into my house in the middle of the night. The police couldn't find the culprit, but I knew it was definitely him. If your mother hadn't rushed into the flames with a wet blanket to save me, I wouldn't be alive today. I once thought Uncle Bao was a very good person, until I discovered that each of his daughters brought back a large dowry when they married. He took care of my mother, pretended to be good to me, but it was all just because he coveted my family's wealth. What a pity. But good and evil will always have their retribution in the end.